So we're using the same rules we've done. Product rule, quotient rule, chain rule. We're using those. There's no new rules. We're just, instead of them giving you the equation, they're not giving you the equation, they're giving you a table instead. Okay? So like number 1a, there's h of x. We don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a polynomial. I don't know if it's trig. I don't know if it's an natural log or a log. I don't know if it's exponential. Like, I don't know. But neither do I know f or g. But we can use the table, because the table's a resource, to find what we need. Okay? So they all given. There's all a given part. For each of these, there's a given. So for example 1, we only use table 1, the first table. Okay? So here's the given part. The given part for each is there, 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 and there. Okay? So they all describe some sort of function. So for 1a, given that h, there's a function called h of x. How is it made? What does it consist of? It consists of f of x plus g of x. So two separate functions being added together. Okay? Well, if we have two separate functions being added together, how do we find derivative of that? Yes, we find the derivative of f, we find the derivative of g, add them together. Okay? So what is the derivative of f of x?
1.
Not 1. Derivative of x is 1. What's the derivative of f of x? F prime of x. Do we know what that is? No. Okay. What is the derivative of g of x?
G prime.
There we go. That's as far as I can go with derivatives because I don't know what the function is, right? So now I'm going to find h prime. Oops, sorry, this should be h prime. H prime, not of x, I just did that. H prime of 1. So that means find the derivative and plug in 1. So it's going to be f prime of 1 plus g prime of 1. Now we go to the table. What is f prime of 1?
1. 1.
What is g prime of 1?
2. Plus 2. This might be 4.
There we go. So h prime of 1 for a is 3. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm going to erase this line here because I think I'm going to need some room. Okay, so 1b. Again, there's a function h, which consists of f of x, another function, times g of x, another function. Find h prime of 2. So h prime of 2 means find the derivative of h, plug in 2. That's what that means. So to find the derivative of h, what am I going to have to do? There you go, right? So what am I going to use to find the derivative? Can I do it like I did earlier, or do I have to use one of the rules to find the derivative of h for the second one, for b? I have to use the product rule, because aren't they being multiplied together? Two functions being multiplied together and you're finding derivative, you got to use product rule. So product rule says the first times the derivative of the second. Derivative of the second is just g of x plus the opposite. Let's see, moving this one this way. There we go. Sorry, just trying to give myself some more room. I'm running out of room. Okay, let's see. Plus the derivative of the first times the second. Guys have done that many, 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 many times. Okay, so now plug in 2. f prime of 2 times g prime of 2 plus f prime of 2 times g of 2. This is where the table comes in. What is f prime of 2? What is f prime, or sorry, what is f of 2? Sorry, f of 2. 3. What's g prime of 2? 0. So 3 times 0 plus, what do we got? F prime of 2 now. F prime of 2 is 0 again. Doesn't really matter what g of 2 is, but it's 1, or sorry, 3. So 3 times 0 is 0. 0 times 3 is 0. That was it.
Oh my god. Oh no.
Okay.
Quotient.
Oops. So now, yep, next one we have is quotient rule. Let me separate these so it doesn't. Okay. Didn't put enough room here. Oh well. Okay, so let me move it over here. H prime is going to need quotient rule. So we have low times the derivative of the high minus the high times the derivative of the low over the low squared. That's the derivative. It's kind of crammed in there because I ran out of room. I'm running out of room. But that's the derivative. Okay. Last step, plug in 1 everywhere you see x. Use the table to fill in what you need, and you're done. So I'm running out of room here, so I'll say it instead of writing it down. So g of 1, it would be g of 1. G of 1, wait, let me erase the other ones that I'm not using from the last round. G of 1 is 1, so it'd be 1. F prime of x, f prime of 1, sorry, would be 2. So it would be 1 times 2.
That's not F prime.
That's not f prime. Sorry, 1 times 1. Nope. Yeah, 1 times 1. So it'd be 1 times 1 here. Minus f of 1. F of 1 is 2 times g prime of 1, which is also 2. So this would be 2 times 2. And then g of 2, or sorry, g of 1 is 1 again. So you'd have 1 squared down here. So when you multiply, subtract, divide, what do you get? I totally forgot what I was multiplying. What did you guys get? Negative 3?
Yeah, 1 minus 4.
So 1 minus 4 on top. So you'd get 1 minus 4 on top over 1 squared.
Yep.
So negative 3 over 1, negative 3, yeah. Okay, last one. For this one is g of f of x. So for 1D, what are we going to use? We're going to use the quotient rule, we're going to use the product rule, are we going to use the chain rule, just the power rule? What are we going to use? Chain. This is a chain rule problem, yeah. Chain rule says find the derivative of the outside, so f prime, inside stays the same, chain the derivative of the inside. The derivative of the inside is g prime of x. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply, I'm going to plug in. Move over here. I'm going to plug in 3 everywhere there was an x. Oops. Okay, so g of 3 is 1, so we get f prime of 1 times g prime of 3. G prime of 3 is negative 2. So f prime of 1 is 1, so it's 1 times negative 2, which is negative 2.
Ah, I see.
Okay. All right. Example 2 is very similar. The only difference is I think C is a little different. I can do C with you, but I want you to do A, B, and D.
He's x over fx. Mm-hmm. Also, it's like 1 over. Okay, I understand.
Yeah, it's doable, but it's not the same as what we did on top. Yeah, that's 2C is a little bit different, but it's not really anything crazy. Okay, so do that one, and I will. 2C is just a little bit different than the ones we've been doing, so I'll do it up here. Okay, so h of x, nope, for 2C is h over f of x, right? Yep, and then find h of 1. Okay, so it's a quotient rule problem. Low times the derivative of the high. So what's the derivative of the top? 1. Minus the high times the derivative of the low, which is just f of x, over the low squared. That's the only difference. You just use x. It's not f of x, it's not h of x, it's not g of x, it's just x. And then you just do the same thing. You plug in what you need to. So this one we're plugging in 1, I believe. Yeah, 1. So f of 1 times 1 minus, well, it's only x, so I'm plugging in 1. Anywhere there's an x, I'm plugging in 1. Times f prime of 1 over f of 1 squared. Let's see, f of 1 is 3. So 3 times 1 minus 1 times f prime of 1, which is negative 1, over f of 1 squared, 3 squared. So we get negative 3 minus negative 1 divided by 9. So 3 minus a negative 1 is 4 over 9. Okay. And then the last one's just chain rule. So h of 3. D. Let's see, 2D. So h prime of x is going to be derivative of the outside, inside stays the same, times the derivative of the inside. Replace all of the x's with 3's. Times 3. Let's see. So do the insides now. G of 3 is 2 times g prime of 3 is 1. F prime of 2 is negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. See what? Oh, negative 1? Wait, let me write down my answer. Negative 1. Negative 1. Okay. All right.
Yeah, 3 negatives. We're doing good, guys.
Okay.
Can you show how you got 8?
Right here. Looks like chain or quotient rule. And then I plugged in 3 and then did what I needed to do, multiply, multiply, subtract. Okay. All right, so let's go to this guy here. So these problems, so today the tables are very common. You almost never see them on multiple choice. You almost always see them when you do see them on free response.
Oh, no.
Okay, so these are free response types of questions. Let me just write a little note here. On last page. Okay. Okay, so now we have a new table. So now we have something a little more complex than what we've been doing. So right now, I'm not even worried about the table right now. I just want to find the derivative of that, all right? Because this guy wants me to find, they want me to find h prime of 3 for both. Well, to do that, I have to find the derivative first. How do I find the derivative of that guy? There's a couple different ways to do it. What's the most obvious way? Quotient rule. Quotient rule, for sure. Is that the only way? No. You know, if there's only a 1 on top, you can use the chain rule and the power rule. But I would say most students, I would say for every 5 students, I would say 4 generally use the quotient rule for this problem. So I'll show the quotient rule. Is that the only way to do this problem? No. Okay. That's not the only way to do this problem. But like I said, 4 out of every 5 students I find uses the quotient rule for this one. So I'll use the quotient rule. Okay. Low, oops, times the derivative of the high. Well, what is the derivative of the top? 0, yep. Minus the high times the derivative of the low. How do I find the derivative of the low? How do I find the derivative of this guy? The chain rule, yeah. The chain rule, right? This guy has got an inside and it's got an outside. The outside is g. The inside is 2x. So to find the derivative, I shouldn't say equal, I should say arrow. To find the derivative, we got to find the derivative of the yellow. So g, the derivative of the yellow is g prime, parentheses, rewrite the green. Chain, derivative of the green now, 2. So that's going to go in there. Okay. The bottom squared. So g of 2x squared. So now what I'm going to do is everywhere there's an x, I'm going to change to a 3. So h prime of 3 equals, well, there's already a 2, so it's g prime of g of 2x, right? So is it, how do I plug in 3? Is it g of 23?
G of 6.
There you go, multiply, right? Because it's 2 times x. So it's going to be g of 6. And this one's actually for not, because it's just multiplying by 0. So that's going to be 0 when you end up multiplying. And then 1 times g prime of 6 again times 2 over g of 6 squared.
What the?
So this guy ends up going away because anything times 0 is just 0. So g prime of 6, go look at my table, g prime of 6 is 5 times 2. And then the bottom would be g of 6 squared. G of 6 squared. So g of 6 is negative 2 squared. So we get negative 10 over 4, which simplifies to negative 5 over 4. A and B are they used to be on this chapter test. When we take the test, these used to be on the test. I took them off because what I do.
I don't think it works
Five
like
over
that.
4.
Oh, sorry, what?
5/2.
5/2, sorry.
I don't think it works like
Wait a
that.
minute. I was
Sorry.
looking up, I'm like, wait a minute.
There we go.
You
5/2.
I don't think it works like that.
There we go. Was on the one of the previous versions of the individual test. I did that on purpose. Okay. Okay, so here we go. H of x. Well, h of x has 1. Anytime you find derivative and you have a root, change it so that you don't have the root. So it's going to be 1/2 power. Right? So it's x times f of x. That's what it is. X times f of x. So to find the derivative of that, first we have to use the chain rule. Because it's got a power other than 1. So we're going to find the derivative of the outside, which is something to the 1/2 power. So we move the 1/2 to the front, rewrite everything that was on the inside, subtract 1 whole from the power, chain. Then the inside, the next layer. The next layer is this guy. There's only 2 layers to this guy because it's x times f of x. That we're going to use the product rule. First, times the derivative of the second, f prime of x, plus the opposite. The derivative of x is 1 times f prime of x. That's the derivative. So this one's just like the last one. They want to know h prime of 3. H prime of 3. So every x gets changed to a 3.
It's 1 times fx, not f prime of x.
So 3
No,
times.
why would you do x times f prime of x plus 1 times f prime of x? You don't do 2 derivatives.
So we get 3 times, oh yeah, so it should be, this one should be f of x. This one's correct.
That one's correct, but the other side.
The other one should be f of x.
Yeah, there you go.
Oops, why did I put x again? That should be a 3. So I need to erase that prime right there. Okay. Table, go figure out what these f of 3s are. We need f of 3 and f prime of 3. So 1/2 times 3, let's see, f of 3 is 1 to the negative 1/2 power times 3, f prime of 3 is negative 3. plus 1 times f of 3, which is 1. So we're going to get 1/2 times 3 to the negative 1/2 power times negative 9 plus 1. Well, 3 to the negative 1/2 power is just the square 1 over. So this is 1 over the square root of 3. Just leave it as the square root of 3. Don't change it to a decimal, just leave it like that. Times negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8. Multiply straight across. You get negative 8 on top. I get 2 times the square root of 3 on the bottom, because this is over 1. Simplify. Divide these both by 2. And you're done. So it would be negative 4 over square root of 3. You don't have to worry about the root being on the bottom. Just leave it like that. Okay, so one more time. These are the ones you're more likely to see on a free response test. Hint, hint. Okay, for the next for the next test.
Oh my god.
Okay.
C? CX? Huh?
All right. Okay, number 4 is kind of is similar, bigger box, but similar to 1 and 2. So I want you to do those. Do those 1, 2, 3, 4, or A, B, C, D, and E. So do 4A, 4B, all of those. Do 4. We'll do 5 and 6 together. I'll put the answers up here so you can check them. Just want to make sure, because 5 and 6 are not different, but they're not like the ones in the front. Okay. Okay, so 5, we got to write the equation of the tangent line. They don't give you a table, but they give you enough information to make a kind of a mini table, right? They say f of negative 2 is 1, right? Negative 1. And f prime of negative 2 is positive 6. So the way I do it is when they give me information like that, I make a table, just because that's where my brain kind of, it's easier for me to look from a table than just like narrative form. Do you have to do that? No, but that's what I do. It's the same type of problem, just they didn't give you a table. Okay, they have g of x though. They said g of x is this guy here. X squared minus 2 times f of x, right? So if we want equations of tangent lines, we need a derivative and I need a point, an x and a y, right? They've given me the x. They've given me the x, which is negative 2. So that would end up being positive 2, right? But I need a derivative and I need the y. So let's start with the derivative. It's x squared minus 2 times f of x. That's multiplication. If I'm finding derivative, that's the product rule. Okay, so the product rule says the first times the derivative of the second plus the second times the derivative of the first. And the derivative of the second is just 2x. Okay? And which value am I going to plug in for x this time? Negative 2. So everywhere there's an x, you're going to plug in negative 2. So negative 2 squared is 4, minus 2 is 2, so we get 2 here. F prime of negative 2 is 6, plus f of negative 2 is negative 1, times 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. So you get 12 plus 4, which is 16. That's the slope. 16 is the slope.
X plus 2.
Plus, yeah.
Plus.
Okay. Now, how do I get the y coordinates?
Plug in minus 2 to the original.
Plug in minus 2 to the original. Good. So plug in minus 2 to the original. So g of negative 2 equals negative 2 squared minus 2 times f of negative 2. So is it going to be 4 minus 2, which is 2, times f prime of negative 2, which is 6.
It's normal.
Yeah, normal F.
Normal f, that's right. So it'd be negative 1, yeah.
F of 2 equals 16. F of 2 equals 16.
F of negative 2 is negative 1. So you get negative 2. So it's also negative 2.
I got that wrong.
So it'd be y plus 2 equals 16, x plus 2. We've done all those steps before, we just never used it using a table.
Yikes.
We've found tons of equations of tangent lines. You found tons of slopes of tangent lines. We've just never done it using only a table. They usually gave us the function, right? Steps are the same, they look a little different though. Number 6 is the same thing, but instead of a table, they give you a graph. Use it the same way though. Use it the same way. So they give you two graphs, f and g, just like they've always given you as a table, f and g, right? So the left one is f, the right one is g. H of x is those two divided, right? F divided by g. They want us to find h prime of 4. Okay, so we got to find the derivative of h. We've done this actually, so we don't actually have to find the derivative. We did it on the front, right? Didn't you find h prime, the derivative of that? So we got,
Yeah, what's the F prime and G prime?
So you just take the point and make it perpendicular. That's your.
Yeah, probably.
let's see, so h of x low times the derivative of the high minus the high times the derivative of the low. Okay. Now we're going to plug in 4, since 4 is the value they want us to plug in.
Quick, where's the homework where we did it with graphs? Oh,
Okay. So g of 4
it's negative 3.
times h prime of 4 minus f of 4 times g prime of 4 over g of 4 squared. Okay. Okay, so g of 4, right? G of 4 is just the y value at when x is 4. So negative 1? Oh no, it's positive. That's negative 4. I want positive 4. Was that right there? Negative 3? So negative 3 times f prime of 4. Well, what does f prime always refer to? Slope, tangent, line, right? So they want you to find the slope when x is 4 for f. So it's the point here. But they don't want the y value, they want the slope. So what is the slope of the line, the segment it's on? 1, right? Up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. It's 1. f of 4 is negative 3. G prime of 4, well, the same thing.
Also,
G, the segment it's on, what is the slope of that? It's 1 as well, right? Yeah, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. Over G of 4 squared. Negative 3 squared.
oh, thank God it's not 0.
So we get negative 3 minus negative 3 over 9. So negative 3 minus negative 3 is really negative 3 plus 3, 0. Or 0 over 9. I should probably write 0.
0 or 9. Sick.
Okay. Okay. So G prime, F prime, anytime it has prime, it refers to a slope. Okay, it refers to a slope. If they give us in a table, great. But if sometimes they don't give us to it in it as a table, so we have to use a graph, so you're not finding F and G, those are points,
Okay, so
right?
look for the
That refers to the y value. But if it's prime, that means it refers to the slope. Okay? All right, that's it.
Wait, no, it's rise over 1, right?
Okay.
3 over 2.
All right, so tomorrow we're gonna just do the practice.